Well, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome everyone to our webinar this afternoon, Dashboards in an Hour, presented specifically around Microsoft Power BI. My name's Michael and I'm your host today, but joining me is Elzina, who's really going to take us through the presentation and present the content through for us today. Now, Elzina's been working in the data analysis and business intelligence space for more than 15 years and is officially entitled an Information Value Strategist and Solutions Architect. So as you can see, I'll be your host, but Elzina will take us through the real content. Now, before we get started today in the presentation, I just wanted to make mention of a couple of key points. Firstly, on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar panel, there is a questions tab. You can at any time type in any question that you may have, and we've allowed some time at the end of the presentation to actually go through those questions and answer them for you. So, as I said, type them in as you have the question, and then we'll come to them at the end of the session. And secondly, we are definitely recording the session for you today, so that'll allow you to either review and have another look at the session, or even share it with someone else within your organisation that you think may be relevant or interested. We will send through to you, as part of the follow-up to today's presentation, a copy of that link to the presentation to our YouTube channel. So on that, I would like to hand over to Elzina, who will actually take us through the presentation today. And just as a reminder, we're going to talk about what is Power BI. So there's going to be a discussion, but there's also going to be a genuine presentation around how to within Power BI. So how to load data, create report, publish a report in a dashboard, share dashboards, and to use the Power Q&A. So there's quite a lot of content to get through today, and Elzina is going to take us through it right now. Thanks, Elzina.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Michael said, we are just going to spend a couple of minutes just explaining what the Power BI is for those that actually haven't seen it, and why and where would you want to use it, how you can start with it. And then we'll launch into a demo where I'm going to use a simple example and actually walk you through the entire process of creating a Power BI solution from the scratch. Loading some data, creating some reports, uploading that to the Power BI website, visualize, publish, share, etc. So let's just first start to talk about what Power BI is. Microsoft Power BI is a modern business intelligence self-service tool that is designed with the business users in mind. It will allow business users to connect to their own data, they can create their own reports and dashboards, visualize the data any way they need and want, and they can also share that analysis and collaborate with their colleagues without having to rely on a constant support from the technical people. Self-service BI, which Power BI actually fits in, it's a different to the traditional business intelligence environment. We often call that enterprise business intelligence environment. The main difference is that with the traditional business intelligence, the IT professionals and the business analysts are the keepers of BI. So they are connecting to the data, creating reports and dashboards, and making business intelligence accessible and consumable for our business users. While this approach is still valid and supports stability, supports accuracy, it does not address the need for speed and agility that is enabled through data exploration and rapid prototyping that is essential in today's changing environment. To foster innovation and business optimization that is fueled by the data analysis, business users as an overall in organization must be able to ask questions, must be able to test assumptions and flex the original context that is presented to them in their traditional dashboards and reports and KPIs. Otherwise, you're running into the risk of making decisions based on a single point of view that is represented in your enterprise report. And you might also miss the important factors that have significant influence on your business, but are not obviously represented in your enterprise report. So how would you start with self-service BI? It sounds great. We want to give the data to everyone, and we actually want to work. But most of us do have some kind of business intelligence platform already implemented in place. Well, I've recently read an excellent blog by Matt Ellington from Power Pivot, which was titled Enterprise-Only Business Intelligence is Flawed Strategy in 2016. In this blog, Matt really provides a very good list of situations where you as an organization would actually consider looking at a self-service BI and therefore Power BI. So for example, if you are planning to implement enterprise-wide business intelligence, so you're building a data warehouse, maybe you're looking at the stack provider and building a huge enterprise-wide solution, but it's a few months away, you can get started with self-service BI. You can get started with Power BI. If you don't know what you exactly need, you don't have your requirements completely figured out, and people are coming to you with the different requirements every day, you can start prototyping using Power BI and actually start coming up with a little bit more of an agile solution design to your business intelligence platform. If you have a successful enterprise business intelligence, but there is always some data that is popping up out there, and there are bespoke requirements that are coming up from the business, and you can't really meet those with your enterprise business solution because it's hard to modify due to timelines, due to cost, due to resource. Well, self-service BI and Power BI is to the rescue. You can use that to actually start filling those gaps. If you, for example, also have a data warehouse, but your data is all required data that you need to do work with your business is not loaded, you can use a Power BI to combine the data from your data warehouse and also the snippets of data that are important to your organization that might be coming from the cloud, for example, or social media. And you can combine it all together and actually start looking at that information. At the same time, some of us do have some mediocre or terrible business intelligence solution. So you can use Power BI to complement that solution. Maybe just use it as a presentation layer to your enterprise data warehouse, or close the gaps and create the solutions around it that will be able to patch up some of the gaps and some of the downsides that your enterprise solution doesn't actually offer. So what you will notice is that when we're talking about all of these situations, never we mention that if you got enterprise business intelligence already, that you don't need self-service BI, that you don't need Power BI. You absolutely do, and if you look back at all of these scenarios, you can see all the different ways where you can use it. At the same time, it is not, the recommendation here is not that because self-service BI is in here, and it's a great and it's easy to use, it's a very flashy, that you have to go in and get rid of your enterprise BI solution and replace it with a modern business analytical tool. It is obviously important to recognize that we can't do that. We can't replace existing reporting-based systems of record with a modern platform just straight away out of the box. We do recognize that in many organizations, the existing enterprise reporting systems are integral to day-to-day business processes. And some of those processes might be exposed to unnecessary risk, or if they're disrupted, by attempt to recreate them in a modern platform. What we're suggesting here that instead you should start complementing your existing implementation with a modern self-service tools like Power BI to foster collaboration between your IT and the business and enable agile and iterative approach to solution development. The idea here is that over time, it is likely that people get used to this model of delivery and working with the data. You will eventually be able to reduce the size of your enterprise platform in a favor of new offerings that provide a greater agility and deeper analytical insight. This is what Gardner calls Bi-Modal approach to business intelligence. So it's not about replacing, it's not about ripping everything out and starting from scratch. It's about complementing, it's using it in parallel and slowly the culture of organization to go from a traditional consumption model to the self-service model. So let's take a look at what Power BI solution looks like. Well, there are many components to Power BI. First of all, there is a Power BI website, which is a website that is hosted as a cloud service. This is the place when you can load data from many public data sources. You can create reports and dashboards, and this is a place when you share and collaborate your analysis with your colleagues. Generally, to create a meaningful dashboards and reports, you use Business Analyst tool. You have two options available for these purposes, Microsoft Excel and Power BI Desktop. Both of these tools contain the same components that are required to build Power BI solution. They have Power Query, which allows for a data mashup and transformation of the data. They have Power Pivot, which allows you to load the data and store it in memory model, which is an optimum for a self-service and slicing and dicing. It contains Power View, which allows you to visualize that information and create nicely looking reports. Power Map for a geospatial analysis, and Power Q&A, which is a natural language question engine which lives in the Power BI website. So these components in Excel are available as a separate components, free add-ons that you can install, and you use them separately or together. If you are using Business Excel, if you are using Microsoft Excel as your business analyst tool, you are dependent on the version of the Microsoft Office. So you will require Excel, Microsoft Office 2010 and higher, and depending on which version you have, some of these add-ons will have to specifically be added and enabled. Better alternative is the Power BI Desktop. It is basically contains all of these components under the same solution. It is easier to work with, and you have a better experience. And more importantly, it does not depend on the version of Microsoft Office you are running. This Power BI Desktop tool is a free download from Microsoft website, and it's updated frequently every month. So to build Power BI solution, you obviously need the data. So Power BI can directly connect to existing on-premise data that is set up in analysis services tabular model, which generally are created by business analysts and IT. Data stored in SQL Server databases can also be connected to Power BI using data management gateways, and which are also available as a free download from Microsoft Power BI site. You can, of course, also connect to Microsoft Cloud data for systems like Microsoft Dynamics CRM, Microsoft Dynamics AX, Office 365, so information stored in OneDrive for business, as well as Azure data services like Azure SQL Database, Azure Data Warehouse, Azure Stream Analytics, etc. To allow customers to also connect to numerous non-Microsoft Cloud services, there are a number of out-of-the-box connectors for those services like Salesforce, Zendesk, Marketo, GitHub, etc., as well as the Microsoft Dynamics applications like AX and Dynamics CRM. With an existing subscription to any of those services, customers can just log into Power BI, get connected to it, and by just a couple of clicks, get rich content in form of dashboards, reports, and data sets. All these libraries are actually pre-built analytical solutions that are fully customizable for an immediate business user value. So these are these different types of the data sources that you can use to create and load the data into the Power BI. Once you create your dashboards and reports, you can consume them using the web browser. Power BI is built on HTML5 technology. What that really means is it will work with your favorite browser. It does not have to be Internet Explorer. It works well with Internet Explorer, but it works as well with Chrome, Safari, and likewise. Power BI is also supported in different mobile devices, namely Android, Apple, and Windows phones. You will require a free application, an app that you need to download from App Stores or Android stores, but those are free and are actually quite functional. So just before we go into a demonstration, let me just highlight one thing. Many things in Power BI, as you will see in this demonstration, are very simple, it's very intuitive, and can be achieved by business users alone. However, if we are talking about some complex business scenarios, if your data is spread in a hybrid environment, so you have some data on premise, so you might also have some data in a cloud, you need to connect to multiple data sources and you need to map customers across different systems. In that case, you will require a professional help to help you build a proper data models where the data is properly connected, cleaned up, and prepared for analysis. Even in those scenarios, you still have a big win with the tools like Power BI, because once the data is enabled and secure in those data models, it is then you are then able to give it back to the business users to create and visualize it any way you want and present it in a way that suits their own business processes, their own business practices. So that's just a brief overview of what Power BI is and what components they are and where potentially you could think about using it. So let's have a look at a specific example. This session is called a dashboard in an hour after all, and I will attempt to actually go through the process in about 40 minutes or so. So wish me luck. So what we're going to do is we are going to use Power BI desktop to import some simple data, do some shaping and some simple transformations. We will then create some reports that we'll publish onto the Power BI website. We'll create the dashboards, and then we'll just talk about how we can refresh them, maintain the security, and how we can share them and collaborate. Okay, so let's get started. So this is the Power BI desktop. As I mentioned, it is available as a free download from Microsoft Power BI site. It is actually a great tool that you can use to work with the data and do some analysis as well, even if you don't want to publish it to Power BI cloud services. And it is free, and it is updated every month, so new features are coming up every month. So as you may notice here, when I open it up, I got this splash screen, which actually provides me some information about, I can have some tutorials, I can log to the forums, I can check Power BI blog. It's quite useful. What it also did for me the first time when I logged in is actually prompted me to log in and connect my Power BI desktop with my online Power BI account. So it knows who I am, and which makes my publishing of my reports much more seamless. So I'm just going to close the splash screen and actually start with the Power BI desktop, which is just an empty file to get started. As the first thing, what I'll do is I'm just going to go and save this, and I'm just going to call it webinar, for example. Of course, you will always provide a more meaningful name for your analysis. So now I just have an empty file, and I need to get started. I need to get some data. So I can get some data into the Power BI just by clicking on the Get Data. You might notice in here I have a large number of different connection options. So I can connect to different types of the files. I can also connect to a folder, which will then basically load all the files that are belonging to this folder automatically. I can connect to various types of the databases, as you can see here. I can also connect to Microsoft SQL, Microsoft Azure services on a cloud, and these are all these online services connectors that are currently available. New ones are added all the time. So my simple is actually having the data in Excel. So I'm just going to pick that. I'm just going to navigate to it, click on my workbook, and click Open. So now Power BI is actually going to and connect to the desktop and just bring me in options. So I can see here that my data Excel spreadsheet has 4 sheets with the information in it. I can preview this information just by clicking on a sheet, and I can actually see that I have a date information, I have geographical information, products, and sales. So what I'm doing here is I'm loading the sales information for a company called Van Arsdale, who is a manufacturer and distributor of electronic products. So on here I have the information that is generally would be useful for a sales and marketing manager, so we can have that information. So now that I've seen and decided which tables or the data I want to bring in, I can just click load, for example, and just load that data. If I go to edit, the Power BI desktop, it will bring me to a query, Power Query, should I call it, where I can start cleaning up and working with my data. What you might notice here, I've got 4 queries that have loaded, so each sheet is loaded as a separate query. And I also have on the right side in here a number of applied steps that are automatically applied by Power BI intelligently. I can even also actually walk through these steps. So if I click on the first one, I can notice that Power BI Desktop has actually identified my file and actually noted that I do have 4 sheets. Then it has navigated to a specific sheet called date. It has then promoted my first row to being a header, and it changed some data types automatically. So here is where I can, using this ribbon at the top, I can actually start transforming my data without writing a single piece of the code. Just to give you an example, so if I'm looking at my date query in here, I've got my date, I've got my month number, month name, I've got quarter and a year. I don't really need this column here because it's just a repetition of my date. So what I can do in here is I can go into the transform. I can actually go in here and stay at home, click on remove column, and just click on remove column. So that column is now removed from my final data query, and another apply step is created. I can also go and have a look at another table, and I can look at information here. I notice I have a city field, which is basically a full description of the city. I have a city, I've got a state, and then I have a country. Maybe I want to keep that, but I would also like a short name city column. How can I go about it? Well, I can potentially first duplicate this column. So I'll make a copy of it. So now I have city copy. And then I want to transform it because I really just want the value that is before the first comma. So I can go to transform, and I can use split column transform, and I'm going to say split it by delimiter. I can now create 3 fields out of this one because I have 3 values that are split by the comma delimiter, but I'm really only interested at the most left one. So if I click that, what happened, Power BI is then going in and giving me a column with my first value and then everything else in another field. So now what I can do is I can remove this one. I can use the ribbon at the top. It's also quite handy just to right click and actually access quickly the menus that way. So now that I have my city short name, I can also right click and rename this to make it a little bit more friendly. Call it city short name. So this is the way how I can go in just using all of these ribbon menus, actually do lots of transformations. I can add columns, I can transform, I can merge queries, I can append queries, etc., etc. Once I'm ready and I have all my data together, I'm just going to click close and apply, and that will cause Power BI Desktop to load my data from my Excel spreadsheet, apply my transformation steps, and actually load it in my Power Pivot multi-dimensional view. Once I have it loaded in my Power BI, now I have it in memory, and I can do further refinements to my model. First of all, I'm just going to check my relationships of my tables. You might notice in here that Power BI has guessed some of the relationship between the tables, but my date is not linked to my sales. Why is it important? Well, sometimes you don't want to link the tables with other tables because it contains the self-contained data, island data. However, in this case, when I make a selection on a year or a month, I want to see my relevant sales based on that selection. So I need to connect this table to the rest of my data. I can do that easily by clicking on Manage Relationship. As you can see, I got 2 existing ones, and I can click New. And a simple way is just picking up the field table and another table and just matching the fields that are meant to be a link, and that's all to it. And I click Close, and now I have my date linked with the rest of my data model. You might have noticed that you can only link the tables using a single column. So if you do have the tables and the data that is linked using the multiple columns, then in your query editor you would actually create a concatenated field that will be used as a key. But that is simple enough, again, to be done. So now I can go in and actually see my data in memory in here. And again, I've got each my table is got set of fields that I can basically start working on. Because my data now is in memory, now I have as a user capability to add additional formulas or additional calculations using dimensional analysis expression language, which is very similar to Excel, and it is actually quite powerful. So for example, I can go to products, and I can see here that I do have the products for all manufacturer, but I might be, during my analysis, most interested just to basically see if the manufacturer is one ARZO, which is us, or everyone else. So I don't have that capability at the moment in here, so I'm looking to create a flag field to add it to my analysis, so it makes that analysis much simpler. I can do that by just going to modeling, and I'm just going to click a new column. I'm going to give it a name. And I'm just going to use if statement. So if I say if, and I'm just going to say manufacturer ID 7, then make it Y for yes, else make it N for no, close the bracket. Single bracket, I always do that, and I'm just going to click OK. So what happened now is I have created a calculated column that didn't exist in my data source and added it to my list, which is great. Now I can use this column, like this field, like anything else in my analysis. One other thing as well that I want to do is when I'm doing analysis in my sales, you notice here I have revenue and I have units. I might want to, for example, start looking at this year-on-year growth or year-on-year variance. So for that, what I really want to do is to look at the sales year-to-date and last year-to-date and look at what the variance is. And I can use the DAX expressions to create these calculations. It's a very powerful language. It's an Excel-like formula. It comes up with a lot of helps and prompts to actually create it. But it is something you don't have to be overly concerned about. You start learning them as you go. You learn a few, and then as you start needing additional ones, you look up the syntax in help and basically start creating them. Just to show you how simple it is, I am going to create a new measure. I'm going to call it sales year to date, and I am just going to start using. I'm going to use the total year to date function. And I'm going to do that on sum of revenue. And that will be done over the days. So as a scope of this presentation, I'm not going to actually go into the details of the DAX expression of language and try to explain how that all works. But as you can see, as I start typing the information, the prompts are popping up, and it's actually helping me creating these additional things. What you might also notice, as soon as I've created a new measure, it's popped up under option here under my sales, so it's available for me to use. But it is not showing in my query. And that is a big difference between the measure and the column. Column is something that is actually created during the load time. It's like a persistent column, while the measures are something that are calculated on the fly. They are sensitive to your selection. So for example, my year-to-date, sales year-to-date, will be different based on what month I select within a year. So that kind of makes sense. It's not hard stored. It is just an expression that is then working with a set of data that I'm currently working with. So let me just create the sales last year to date as well. I'm just going to use calculate. And I'm going to say calculate the same, use the same calculation as that one, but for same period last year over the dates. That's my last year to date, and now things get a bit easier now. So if I want to look at the variance, I can just have variance, and I can reuse my pre-calculation that I've already done. I don't have to repeat it and build that in. So now I have some calculations as well. So what we've seen so far is we loaded the data, we've done some simple transformations, to the data itself. We loaded it, adjusted the relationships, and then we've also fine-tuned our data model a little bit to add some additional calculations. Why we do that? What you can also do is hide some of the fields from the report view. For example, I don't need a zip in my cells because it is just a link. It's only a key field. It does not make. It does not provide any value. The same in here. For example, I might not need the quarter, for example. Why would you be hiding some of the fields from the view? You always need to think about other people that might be using this data model. They might not be as familiar with the data source, might not be as familiar with data. So you really don't want to expose absolutely everything. We're always tempted when we're loading the data to load lots of fields, lots of information because we think we might need it at a later stage. Because it's so easy to go back and bring some additional data and transform it. It's always the better practice to start simple and add as you go, as opposed to provide the users with a data model that has thousands of fields and they get lost in translation. So start small and then grow from there. So now we have my data model, which is reasonable for me. I can go and start building the report. So as you can see, I just go to the report session. I have a empty canvas, and I can start doing my reporting. So I can go start and basically let's just create a combo chart. Click on it, and I have a list of my fields in here, the ones that I've created as a calculations as well as my physical fields. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a month name, and from the cells I am just going to add revenue as a column series, and I'm just going to add units as a line values. This is a combo chart after all. So what you might notice in here when I look at my chart, something is not quite right. My month names are actually sorted alphabetically. That's not good. That's not what I wanted. Easy to fix. And I don't have to have a perfect data model first time when I start. I simply go back to my data model in here, look at my date, click on a month name, and under modeling in here, I click sort by column, and I say sort the month name by month number. So I'm going to still see the month name, but it will be sorted by month number. Go back to my report, and it's instantly fixed. Excellent. So now I already have one report that I can use, so I can see my sales and revenue and units, and I can see that I had a bit of that I have a nice, great sales from March to June, but I do have some slump for the rest of the year. So maybe I also want to look at my sales by manufacturer. I know I don't have too many manufacturers, so I might choose a tree view. So I'm going to plug in a tree view, and I want to look at from the products. I'm going to pick manufacturer, and I want to pick revenue, and off you go. So now already I have two different visualizations showing me the data. My data is connected, so if I click on one outdoor, you might notice here that on my right side, my combo chart is actually highlighting. So the darker color is actually showing the one outdoor cells, and the lighter color is showing everyone else. I can click back on it just to cancel that. So what I might want to do is I want to look at my sales by different year. So maybe I want to focus on 2015. So to do that, what I'll do is I'm just going to add a slicer. A slicer is like a filter, and I am going to make my slicer by the year. Slicer is like a filter that allows me to search and also select one or more values. So now if I click on 2015, everything on this page is then filtered by year 2015. So I can look at 2015, one RZL information, and everything is then filtered that way. So that's a good start. Maybe this report actually does require a title and a logo. We all like logos in our reports. So I'm going to go and add that. So I'm just going to go back to the home, and I'm just going to click and add an image. And I do have a logo handy in here that I can bring in. So you can provide your own branding to your reports. So adding that, and just a simple text box, which I'm going to use to put in my report name, and I'm going to call it "2015." Make it central, make it a little bit bigger. So I've got my, and also bold. So you can play a little bit on, how that title looks like. And of course, I have misspelled performance. I always do that during the demos. Who says that you can multitask. Okay, so now I have a logo and I have a title and I have a few charts, and I'm going to start adding a few more. Maybe I would like to look at a sales by segments, so I might use the donut chart and I can pick up a segment and I can look at the sales. Why I'm adding all of these? Each of those visualizations are very interactive. So for example, if I click on moderation, everything else is filtering. So now I'm looking at 2015 sales by segment moderation. And I can also see now that in my revenue by manufacturer, majority of my sales are actually coming from that segment for one auto. I can deselect that. It's always good to have, if you do have some geo information around our customers or our sales or products, it's always good to actually present that on a map. So I want to see the sales based by location. So I have a couple of options. I have the point map and I also have a shape map. So I'm just going to pick up a point map here at the moment, and I am going to select from my geo table, I'm just going to select the state, and from my sales I'm going to select revenue, and that's automatically positioned by Power BI. It's positioned for me on a page. What I might want to actually see these points, the sales might need to be split by category, so I'm just going to go and drag that, and I'm actually getting some maps with a pie chart on top of the states where I have the sales. Quite simple. So as you can see, working with the data is quite simple, it's quite seamless. So now I have one report. I might want to rename it and call it sales. And if I want to create additional page, I can. Just imagine you want to create another page, another report, but you still want to keep the same elements, some of the elements that you already have here, because you don't want to re-import them. Simple to do. You just can right-click and say duplicate page. The copy of the page is created. You can go and create another page, and then you can just remove things that you don't need, for example, and start adding additional things. So for example, I might want, let's utilize some of the calculations that we already done. Maybe I'm just going to use the month name, and maybe I'm just look at year to date and last year to date on my ups. I think I wasn't actually clicking on the right place. So the month name, and we're going to have last year and the current year comparison. Okay, so as you can see, we can spend hours and hours creating all the different visualizations. We don't have to. We have a starting point, and we're now ready to actually start sharing these with our colleagues and maybe get a little bit of collaboration from them and getting them to collaborate and add some additional insights, some additional reports that we want. So first of all, I'm going to save this. So I have my own copy. And then I am going to publish this to my cloud service so other people can see it. So first of all, I'm just going to click on publish. Because I am already connected and logged in to my Power BI website, it basically says, where do you want it? You have an option to publish to your own workspace or a number of different groups. I'm going to publish to a group that I've created for this specific purpose called webinar, and click OK. So now while that's happening, the Power BI is just basically uploading information into my cloud service, and it's as simple as that. So now I actually can go to my Power BI website and actually start looking at the data. So this is what the Power BI website or your online service looks like. Every user has their own workspace area where they have their own dashboards, reports, and the data sets. That is some place when you just see your own reports, your own work, no one else can see it. unless you can share it. You can also import the dashboards that someone else has shared it with you. The other way to share the information is to actually or to create a groups and add specific people into a group where you can start, basically start to collaborate. So this specific group is called webinar. At the moment, I'm the only member, but I can easily add additional people. So for example, I can add Michael, and I can decide that Michael can be a member that can edit or just view the content within this group. And I can click add, and I can also basically click add and create it. Let's just not add Michael for time being. So my Power BI, by the fact that I click publish, what it has happened is I have a data set loaded into my Power BI, and I have the reports loaded into my Power BI website that are available now to any member of this group. That is to view or also edit. From the data set perspective, as you can see here, I have all the fields that I had in my Power BI desktop. I can add additional reports in here if I want, in exactly the same way as I did with the desktop. What you can also do in here with the data set is now, as a user, I can schedule a refresh. My data, my Excel spreadsheet is now on premise. It's actually on a folder. But because I have a database connection, a data management gateway, I actually can schedule this refresh, and the data management gateway will facilitate uploads on a schedule to basically push the information through if I want to do that. The other thing as well that I can do with the data set is I can analyze it in Excel. So what I can do is I can open this data set now from the cloud in Excel on a premise and create pivot table if I want. But what's security as well, I can apply role-based security and allow only certain people to see their own slices of data. But what's actually quite useful is starting up a quick insight. Quick insight is the algorithm that is part of Power BI. That's what actually executed. What it does, it helps you, it goes in and looks at the data and comes up with some suggestions on charts and reports, visualizations, based on some of common outliers that is actually identified. If I click on a view insight, I can see what it is suggesting for me. So I don't even need to know anything about the data I already have. Power BI gives me a little bit of a help to get started. So I can see that, I can look at this chart and it says, okay, so urban category has noticeably more sales here today. Maybe I want to pin that to a dashboard. So I want to see it later on as well. I don't have one existing at the moment, so I'm going to create one, and I'm going to call it webinar and click pin. I can also start looking at additional things in here. So maybe look at this one, maybe add that one as well. So I'm now just pinning it to existing dashboard, etc., etc. So now, under my dashboard, and this was the simple way, I just click create it and I pin something to it, I have already two charts. What I might want to do is, I might also want to add a couple of visual visualizations from my report into the dashboard. Dashboards you would use to summarize and create a single view of information across multiple reports, because you share the dashboard with other users, and that's the way you actually provide access to the report and underlying analysis to the users via sharing a dashboard. So I can go in and basically, maybe I want to pin because I want to have my logo on my dashboard as well. I can pin a couple of these visualizations in my dashboard, and I can go back and have a look. I can, of course, start rearranging things. It is as simple as that. Okay, so now I have my logo, and as soon as I click on a pinned item on a dashboard, it takes me back to a report. I clicked on a logo, and it actually took me back to the report. What I could also do is to help me create the dashboards and help me get the value of the data. Use the Power Q&A capability part of the Power BI. So you can see here at the top of my dashboard, I have this area which says ask a question of your data. So for example, I would like to add in here a tile that shows me the Bi-Modal revenue for 2015. I can go and create a visualization and pin it, but I can also say for 2015. So now I actually have that revenue, and I can decide to pin that visual to my existing dashboard. So now, if I go back to my dashboard, it is generally in here. If you see here, it's already automatically nicely formatted to actually show me a nice view of my Bi-Modal revenue for 2015. So this is a simple way. Once you have your data sorted out and properly modeled, creating the report, creating analysis, creating these dashboards is as simple as as your imagination could take you. So we've basically gone through the entire process of using the desktop to load the data, creating some startup reports, publishing that to the Power BI, creating a dashboard from scratch, pinning some tiles to the dashboard, and now it's just a matter of what we want to do. We want to now share and collaborate, because decisions are not made in isolation. Decisions, you want to collaborate with other people. You want to take advantage of learns and what other people have done to shortcut what you need to do. So as I mentioned, there are a couple of ways to share it. I can simply share this dashboard and just by typing in an email address from everyone within my organization that is a part of this implementation, I can grant them access. I can also allow them to on-share my dashboard if I want to. If I do share the dashboard this way, what the users actually do get is they can access this dashboard to their workspace in a read-only mode. What that really means is, for example, this financial performance dashboard that I have in my workspace, it is being shared with me. It's not something I've created from scratch. And I know it's been shared because it does have this icon next to it. So if I click on a financial performance dashboard and here that it's been shared with me, I can see it. I can use my Q&A. I can also click on any tile and drill down into the report. I can look through all the reports that are available there. I can click on different things, and the information will it will be interactive as possible. The only thing that I don't have, because this dashboard is just being shared with me, is I can't edit my reports. I can create extra reports, but I can't edit anything that is being shared with me because it is shared by someone else who is the owner of this situation. So this is one way of sharing your dashboard in Power BI. You create your reports, you create a summary dashboard, you share it with one more people, and they get a read-only access to it. The other way is to actually create a group. And just creating a group is as simple as just clicking on create a group, allocate access to a limited number of people, and allow them to either just read or being able to edit. So groups are generally areas where you would create when you have multiple people, multiple designers, multiple collaborators which will be working together on a single project. So you can load the data and you can work together on reports and dashboards just as a collaborative group. So that is a second way of sharing the data and analysis within the Power BI. The third way is once you have come up with a set of dashboards and reports and the data sets that you would like to on-share with the rest of the organization, what you would do then is actually go in and create organizational content pack. Creating organizational content packs is as simple as going to settings and creating a content pack. You can share it with a specific group or the entire organization. You can set up email addresses that is going to be sent. The title, description. What's more important in here is you can add different data sets, different reports, and different dashboards into a single content pack. You are packaging your data sets, your reports, and dashboards, and then you're sharing it with the rest of the organization. These are then accessed by your organization by basically going into the get and accessing this and clicking on the content pack. When a user clicks on a content pack that you prepackaged and published, they basically get a copy of the data set reports and dashboards for them to work with. They can modify it, they can change it. If you, as an owner, modify existing content pack, the users will get a notification and they will have a choice of overwriting their own or saving it as a different version. So there are these different ways of collaboration and sharing within the Power BI that are actually quite flexible, and you can really organize it in any way you want. So this is just a simple example that walks you through the entire process from the beginning to the end on how you can load the data, create reports, create dashboards, and actually share your analysis and work with that. So we don't have much time anymore to do anything more, but I hope it is actually giving you a great idea on the entire process and a bit of an insight of what's required to be done to actually run and create a Power BI type of solution.
Elzina, you've done it. You've given us the overview, and then you've actually shown us how practically possible it is. All well within the hour, by the way, yes. Not even taking the full hour. Look, some fantastic content shared there. And just a reminder, we'll go through some questions now and answer those straight away. So as a reminder, on the right-hand side of your go-to panel, you can actually type questions in, and we'll just go through them now. So Elzina, there's already been some questions come through. Are you ready for the questions as well? Excellent, thank you. So first question is regarding the number of databases we can connect to. So can I connect to 2 databases in one Power BI report? So maybe even more than one database in one Power BI report.
Yes, absolutely you can. So you would use Power BI Desktop to connect to the data from one database. Then you will also connect it to the data from another database, and you can use a Power Query to transform the data. So connect it, merge it, link it, and put it all together in a single data set. And from then on, it's available to reporting and analysis that way.
So brilliant, excellent, thank you. And then look at timeliness in terms of the refreshing of the data, I guess. So the question is, how live or up to date is the data?
So that really depends on how you set up your refresh schedule and how your data model is set up. So you have multiple options with Power BI solutions. First of all is you can have a scheduled import. So you can refresh your data every hour on schedule, for example, and that is where the data is pulled from a source into the Power BI in-memory storage and then available and refreshed every hour. Power BI also allowed for something called direct query, which basically allow you to, as the user is basically working with the visualizations, the data is live querying the data source. So it's available for only some data sources. So the direct query is available for SQL Server data sources, SQL analysis services, Azure SQL and data warehouse, SAP HANA, Oracle database, Teradata database, and there are a couple of databases that are still in preview but that will be available soon, like for example Impala, although I think that Impala has just been available in August release. So on top of that, if you do have developers on site and they are actually quite handy with a bit of code, you can develop a real-time dashboard. So you can use REST APIs, or you can use Microsoft Stream Analytics that are actually allowing to stream the data directly into Power BI dashboard and see the changes as they're going. So really you can see your data as near live every hour, or you can see it live as it goes. It really depends how you set up your solution.
Okay, so flexible then to the requirements as well.
Yeah.
Excellent, okay. So just and maybe just a follow-on question then, specifically noting, I did see those when you're loading the data or data options, and sources like Google Analytics, EDM APIs like MailChimp,
yep,
to do marketing reporting, and then matching that against SQL Server user data.
Yeah. So what you would obviously start with, you can use the out-of-the-box connectors to some of those services like MailChimp or the Google Analytics to pull the data in initially. and then you can again utilize get data to connect the data from SQL and then do the transformation to connect it together. So yes, definitely you can. Out-of-the-box connectors, when you pull the data, they actually provide you with a set of the data sources and reports that are fully customizable. So yes, you do get something out of the box for immediate use, but you can also customize and merge with the rest of the data to provide a more round solution that suits you.
Perfect, more complete. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, next question. So the first part, the two-part question, I think there's almost like a warning to this question at the end. How many files can be loaded at once from the folder option? And the warning to that question is, I do have 623 CSV files.
Right. To be honest, I don't know from the top of my head. It does depend on your internet connection and your throughput. What you might want to do, you could do potentially is load it incrementally.
So we can do more than one at a time?
Yes, you can do definitely more than one at a time. So if you remember at the beginning when I was talking through the different connectors, if your all CSV files have the same structure, even if they're multiple files, you can connect to a folder, and then just by default, the Power BI will just loop through every single file in that folder and load the data, hand the data into a single table. How many you can do at once, and how long, you definitely can load them all. How long will that take is probably another question that we don't know the full answer until we try. It depends on how, of the build of your machine, the resources that you have available, but it's definitely possible.
Okay, excellent. Okay, just with regard to the user structure, so do users have to also have Power BI to be able to view what you've created?
Yes. So if users want to view what you create and publish to the Power BI website, yes, they do need to have a Power BI account to be able to view it. If you want to distribute something as a file internally for an offline use using the Power BI desktop, that's also possible, but they will also need to have Power BI desktop downloaded so they can open the file. So yes, the question is yes, they do. Every user will need to have Power BI to view your analysis and reports that you've created.
Okay, excellent. Now I do need to give a quick warning here, Elzina. We've got a lot of questions that have come through, so I'm just going to go through a few quickly, and then if we don't get to all of them, we will follow up with everyone as part of the follow-up to today. Quickly, how do you refresh data?
So when you publish the data set to Power BI website, there is when you right-click on a properties of Power BI website, you can access the schedule refresh, where you can schedule the refresh, and it is then done on schedule. Okay. You can also execute it manually if you want to refresh it in between schedules. Okay,
excellent. Easiest way to update monthly reports such as HR demographic reports that are standard monthly reports. So we've got a monthly schedule there.
Just a schedule on a monthly basis. First day of the month, last day of the month, whatever you want.
Okay, excellent. Quick one on Australian Power Map function. So you were demonstrating US.
It actually is only because I had US data, so US states. If I had the states in Australia, the Bing map, Power Map will actually show me Australian sites.
Okay, excellent. Can you copy someone else's report and rename as your own, and that way edit the report?
If they have shared it with you with the edit permissions, yes, you can. Okay. If you have a read-only, you can't.
Excellent. How many people can you add to workspaces? And again, there's a warning to this question. We have 230 employees. Not all will be given access to edit, only some.
So every user that has a Power BI account has their own workspace. So you don't actually add people to the workspace. Maybe that is a question to the work group. I don't know that there is a limit. We'll get back to you on that one. We'll need to check with Microsoft. I don't know that there is a known limit as such.
Okay. Look, Elzina, I do need to cut you short with your answers I'm sure we could keep going for the rest of the afternoon here, but in the interest of making sure that we finish our presentation today on time, we have got a number of other questions that have come through, which is fantastic, and really testament there to the engagement there around the presentation. So as an action for this for Professional Advantage, what we'll do is add the question and the answer into the follow-up as part of the thank you for attending email that you receive with, as a reminder, a recording to the webinar today to our YouTube channel. So lastly, I just want to finish up with a what next question. So today was very much an overview, again, quite a detailed overview there, and just showing you what's possible with Power BI. If you'd like to go to the next level, we do have specific training created for this content, and we have actually created 2 particular training courses. So the dashboard in a day, which is as suggested, a day training, a 1-day training session, which will take you to the next level of the things that you've seen today. And then what we've called a starter pack, which actually includes the dashboard in a day training, but also getting you started with your content on your site within your organisation. So it is a genuinely getting you started with Power BI, not just the training. So training content as well as actually having some published content at the end of that session. And if you'd like to just find out more, either work with your account manager if you're already working with Professional Advantage. If not, please reach out to Eleanor, who put the session together for us today. As a quick advertisement, we do have more webinars coming your way, specifically for our Dynamics customers. We have a GP Collections webinar coming shortly. In fact, that's tomorrow. So quickly get in if you're interested. We also have an Internet in a Box session focusing there around SharePoint, which is, well, that must be the day after. Well, we've got a lot of content here coming your way, which is fantastic. And then another session for our Dynamics clients, our Dynamics GP clients around procurement. So plenty coming your way if you're interested, or if even you're not specifically interested, please don't hesitate to let someone else within your organisation know of an upcoming session as well. So on that, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you to Alzina for presenting the content to us today and answering those questions, and as I said, we will follow up with the remaining answers. And thank you for everyone for attending and asking such great questions. I really appreciate the interaction there with the session today. So look forward to seeing you in an upcoming webinar or seminar that we may run, and look forward to working with you specifically around Power BI. Thanks everyone, have a great day.